Hey everyone, welcome to another Bicycle Restoration Man video. A friend of mine bought the Speedplay Zero series pedals online. He noticed that there was a lot of slop and play with the spindle here. I asked him to let me take a look at them before he got rid of them, see if I can fix them. I've had some experience with these pedals, so on with the rebuild. And stay tuned because later on I'll show you how a lot of these parts are interchangeable with the first generation X series pedals. Well, we'll start by removing the plastic dust cover cap. Okay, next we're going to remove the little retaining ring or clip that hold the bearings in place. There's a tool for this, but I just use this little small pick device to pull it out with. Next we'll remove the screw that holds the spindle against the bearings and into the pedal body. We're using a number 20 Torx driver to remove the screw. At this point, the spindle should just pull right out. But since we're having a difficult time with this, it's telling us something is seriously wrong inside the spindle. Wow, by the look of the black grease on this pedal, you can tell that it's never been maintained properly. These Speedplays are a little bit more complex inside than most pedals and definitely need periodic servicing. This groove in the spindle here shouldn't be here. This should be like a smooth, tapered area. I had a pair of first generation X series pedals laying around, so I thought I'd look at the spindle on this one to see what kind of shape it was in. Since we wanted to keep the price down on this rebuild, I thought I might see if this spindle would work. So wipe the grease off of this one, take a look at it, see what kind of shape it's in. You'll notice on this one that there's no groove. It's just nice and smooth there. Little discoloration, that's about it. It's the same shape and size as the other one. A good idea to measure it, make sure it is the same length, which we did, of course. Since we already removed the retaining ring that hold the two outboard bearings in, we're now just going to knock them out with this hex wrench. As you can see, again, no signs of the pedal being serviced at all. That grease is as black as can be. And here's the real damage. On the inboard side where the spindle slips in, the retaining cage that hold the roller bearings in place is all chewed up and the bearings are all over the place. Don't know how that spindle was turning at all. Here's what the inside should have looked like. As more and more play developed in the spindle, it just chewed up the bearings inside. Just now getting as much shrapnel and bearings out of there as I can. Now the difference between the X series and this Zero series is that the Zero series has another retaining ring that holds the roller bearing housing in place. Now that the ring is out, we can punch out the housing with a long flathead screwdriver. We're just putting the screwdriver under the lip of the housing there and then holding it in place. It's on an angle and just hitting it with a hammer. We'll keep rotating the pedal body so the housing comes out evenly. Yeah, you can see it popping out there. There we go. Next, I'm going to take the face plates off there to clean them up a bit. And also to clean up the pedal plate bows, which are underneath the plates there. I attached the spindle from the X series pedal, which we're going to use on the Zero series, so I can remove the discoloration with 2000 grit sandpaper. This cleans up and polishes the surface without taking any metal off. And here's what it looks like after this, and also polishing it with some semi-chrome. Now, here are those bows I was talking about. Got these cleaned up. They only go in one way, so you can't put them in upside down. The X series pedals do not have these. These are what the springs on your cleats sit against when you're clipped into the pedals. I believe they keep the pedal body from wearing out as fast by allowing the spring to rotate against them and not against the softer body of the pedal. When you put the body plates back on, just make sure the bigger hole is lined up with the smaller hole on the opposite side. And I'll just screw them back in place. You don't need to use a drill. I just did it because it was there, and I wanted to make sure they were nice and snug. I ordered a new set of bearings on eBay. They were only like $15 or $16. Pretty good price. They also came with some new O-rings that keep the grease inside the pedal. Now these are the outboard bearings, and the one on the right goes in first. It has a larger hole and is more narrow than the one on the left. Some people put a little bit of grease in there before they put the bearing in, but I really do not think it's necessary. They're sealed bearings, and when you do lube those pedals, it's mainly for the spindle. Just push them down there really good, or you can use the spindle or some needle nose pliers to push them down the rest of the way. Next, just push the bearing retaining ring in there. You can use a really small screwdriver or some needle nose pliers. Just make sure it's inserted in the groove in the pedal body to hold it in place. When it's in the groove, you can actually spin the ring around. Next, I'm going to use a spindle to slide the tapered rolling bearings into place. I'm just making sure it's seated real well with the needle nose pliers here. And insert the ring clip in the groove above the tapered bearing housing. And again, the X series pedal does not have this ring on this side. Now for the all-important grease. I'm using this Pedro's synthetic grease here. First I'll put a little glob in here in the tapered bearing side, inboard side. Then I'll pick up the spindle and kind of spread it around with the spindle. And I just put a generous amount on the top half of the spindle there. But before you do that, put the O-ring on the spindle first before you lube it. I put a little grease on the end of the star driver there just to hold the screw in place. This screw holds the spindle in place in the body and against the bearings. Just make sure you get in there nice and straight so you don't cross thread it, and just snug it up real tight. Next, just go ahead and push the O-ring down into the pedal body. This holds the grease in place. Don't push it too hard to where you're puncturing it or tearing it. Put your plastic cap back on. You might want to tap it in there really good. You can turn the pedal upside down, just tap it on the table. Then just put a little screw cap in. This just covers the port that you inject the grease in. That's all it does. Doesn't hold anything into place. And there you have it. The pedal body should rotate smoothly but not spin. And there should be no play with the spindle against the pedal body. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.